Okay, keeping going here with this Rogers 22, 13, 12, 16. Kind of said that out of order. That's okay. Got the 16 here, making a video for Matt and for anyone else. Here are the tension rods from the batter side of the 16. All seem to be matching and the same, and that Rogers shape, and yeah, and then more likely that we're seeing the original washers on these tension rods from the 16, whereas some of those random washers may not be Rogers washers from the 12 and 13. For those that are super into that, I like those original Rogers washers. Gretsch also has nice original washers. They're usually a little bit thicker, which is kind of cool. Okay, we will kind of get moving here. Continuing with the 16, we'll do a quick check on the rim. And in general, should clean up quite nice. Little bit of pitting. Not too bad. Definitely very dusty. Probably the first time these heads and rims have been taken off in a long time. A little bit more pitting. So maybe this batter side 16 rim is just barely, with just a little bit more, couple spots of maybe a little bit more pitting, but very minor overall. Still in great shape. Will clean up quite nice. And again, seems to have good flatness in round. No wobble. So that's cool. Lots of old dust. And we'll do a quick check of this top edge. And actually, this is quite nice. This is certainly a good example of kind of a seriously untouched edge. Some beautiful dust underneath there. So far, the wrap is looking good as well, but we'll keep focusing on this top edge. Looking quite spectacular. And of course, still sharp. It's just some of that fuzz, dust. Yeah, I doubt anybody would be disappointed. Yeah, that's quite nice. Kind of cool too to just see some of the, just factory element of like, missed some paint there. That's kind of funny. And then here is the paper tag for this one. And again, kind of cool to see the marking out of with the Sharpie, and then the writing in. And a couple folks have recognized that handwriting in that initial, which is, I don't think it's super rare, but I don't think you see it often. Other Rogers folks would know more than I. Looking pretty good on the interior here as far as the gray and the backing screws. That muffler also looks super clean and also functions the way that it should, which is great. Apologies for bad filmmaking. And see that? And that's kind of why I do this too, is checking for movement in the springs. There's a couple that like maybe this one and maybe this one and maybe this one. Maybe the springs have kind of fallen to the side a bit because they're a little bit lower. And then, oh man, then like for example, that one, a couple of these are, there we go. And so often I will end up, if I end up keeping the drums and finding parts and things, as I start to clean it up, I'll carefully pop off all the lugs and then make sure that if any of the springs have moved or bent or, been twisted, because sometimes people don't know, what they're doing with tuning drums, especially just, certain eras. And so they'll crank down on the tension rods and then, it sometimes either twists or seizes, the insert and the spring. Those in the know, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, these are all fine, but, I'm imagining that if I popped a few of these off, I'd probably see that, maybe I want to kind of reset the spring. Nothing fancy inside for those that don't know, but for those that do, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, this all seems fine. And then let me do a quick check. So there is only one logo. And for those that are in the know, that know more than me, if this 13 is of a different era, which it seems like it is, I don't know when they started putting two logos on either side of the drum. But as far as the 12 and the 16, which I believe are original to the 20, which is pretty likely, just single logos on those. Before I forget, and I will pop the lug off, just give me a second. Seam looks great. Totally great. So that's awesome. And then I did notice that while these should clean up pretty nice, these collet plates, the set screws for the brackets for the floor tom leg mounts, I'm sure that these could be replaced. They're very chewed down, which is not uncommon. And like this one definitely has got a lot more pitting and some chrome loss. And then, these just become so used to the point where they almost become rounded, And then here's the other one. Still got some cobweb on that one, I believe. Yeah. Definitely, needs a good polishing. Imagining this one would clean up pretty nice. And, the actual, I know I'm going to end up saying this wrong, but the, like that one's kind of loose, and so probably, best for parts. And then that one's loose. And then that one's loose, and we all know like how people kind of don't always, over the decades don't do well with taking care of their hardware or things like that, and just, the way things go. So we all know what that's like. Give me 1 second here. And again, very nice, sharp, still top, beautiful edge. Doubt you'd be disappointed in that. Give me one moment. Okay, I just did a quick flip of the drum and just kind of do a quick look-see here. Looks pretty good. And give me one moment. And surprisingly, Wow, surprisingly, this bottom edge, for not having any head or rim on it, is actually still quite sharp, which is kind of amazing. You can see the patina from the dirt over the years, but as far as the edge itself, there's like barely, a small, there's actually really nothing. It's, I'm really kind of amazed. So there's a little bit of roughness there, but it's still actually quite smooth. So there we go. So there's going to obviously just be a little bit of, imperfections because that rim has been off. But in general, I'm quite amazed. Quite amazed. Doubt anybody would be disappointed. They'd probably be impressed. Try and give you a decent kind of edge profile view here. Cool. Okay, so, there's that, and again, I'm pleased. It could be a lot worse. Let me do a quick check of these lugs. See that one? That insert's a little bit sunken, so maybe the spring needs to be adjusted. Same thing with this one. Same thing with this one. Same thing with this one. Not uncommon, not that big of a deal. Sometimes, and I've had this, actually that happened on this Gretsch drum. When I got this drum, there was a spring inside the lug that was bent, and like the T-rod was seized inside the insert, which was seized inside the bent spring. You know what I mean? And I could tell the drum had been like that for decades. So anyway, for those that know, and give me 1 second here. Okay, popping off the lug at the seam. And before I forget, here's the paper tag of the 16. I may have just shown that, but just in case I didn't. And then, yeah, the seam underneath the lug, everything's looking good. Doesn't seem like there's any cracking or bubbling. And then I did want to mention, as I'm taking a look at the lug, all these are in pretty good cosmetic shape. Typical as the others, could use a really good polishing, very little pitting, if any. And then you can see sometimes that it's not even necessarily the spring that moves or gets off to the side or whatever. It's more so that the insert base, fits very, very snugly against the inside walls. So you can see that anyway, for what it was worth. But yeah, and again, making video for this person, Matt, that is interested. But of course, always happy to send this to everyone else as well. Overall, a little bit heavier to deal with. Tape residue. Probably this is like just some dirt, seems to be coming off with my nail. A little bit of residue. Overall, though, give me 1 second. Overall, in pretty great condition alongside the rest of the drums as we're taking a look at them. Doubt you'd be disappointed in the 16. We got a little bit of glare right there, just from the rim sitting next to it, but I don't really see any cracks. Let me try and put this on the side. And just in general, you know, maybe this is tape residue. I think it feels more like tape than rash. Pretty sure this looks like clear tape. I'm almost positive. Yes. That's precisely what that is. So that would probably clean up pretty easy. Just other, just dirt. But I'm just kind of checking everything out. Not too beat up, which is great. Like, again, they all have typical superficial, minor wear and scratching and marks, but overall, like, it's really, really in good shape. Novus probably is going to take out a lot, but not everything, especially some of the deeper scratches. But once it's cleaned up and all of that and everything's polished, I don't think you're going to see a lot of that. But you've got more just kind of superficial scratches. These aren't deep. Can feel that, that one with my nail. But, for most of us are kind of looking at this probably saying, yeah, that's like surprisingly in much better shape than you would expect for a drum that probably lived outside of bags with no heads on the bottom side, So not too bad overall. But yeah, as far as like, is the wrap all split and cracked? No, surprisingly. All the vent holes seem a-okay for what it was worth. I didn't mention that on the other drums, but... And then again, here's the seam. So yeah, and then we kind of went over what's up with the floor tom leg mounts, which is super common. And we talked about both edges. Ooh. Yeah, so there's the 16. I'll do my best just to kind of leave it there. Doubt anybody would be disappointed. And I definitely have seen the Rogers drums where all the wrap is cracked and all that. And yeah, somehow these aren't. Give me 1 second.